One afternoon, heavy rain was falling at DLH School, a girls-only school. On the ground was a girl named Monifa. She had been beaten up by a group of 3 mean girls who ran away after knocking her out and leaving her on the ground in the rain. Another student from the school saw her and immediately alerted the authorities. The girls were questioned by the police, but none of them admitted the truth. I was sleeping in class when the rain was falling. I am a Muslim girl. I know nothing about violence. I don't even know which girl you're talking about. Each of the 3 girls lied and defended herself in her own way. 2 weeks before this incident, Monifa had gotten on the bus to go to school and sat with her only best friend Ijeoma, who was bald. Behind them were 2 of the most popular girls in the school, Frida and Linda. Frida is the meanest and the one everyone feared. Her father was a powerful man who had even more authority than the school principal, and thanks to his influence, Frida never got into trouble or punished. On the bus, Frida spoke to Monifa and mocked her. "Miss Know-it-all, what's new today?" The prettiest girl in the class with her bald friend. Everyone started laughing on the bus. Monifa tried to ignore her and continued talking with her only friend Ijeoma. Frida had a secret boyfriend with whom she chatted every night on Facebook. She was planning to skip classes to go see him, and to distract everyone, she spilled tea on Ijeoma, and while everyone was confused, she took the chance to open the door and quietly get off the school bus. Monifa saw her escape but stayed calm. Once at school, Ijeoma tried to wash the tea stain off her shirt, but nothing worked. It wasn't the first time she had been bullied. In fact, Frida, Linda, and their 3rd Muslim friend Fatima were known for always causing trouble. Once in the city centre, Frida found a public restroom and went in to change her uniform into a tight and provocative outfit. It was the first time she wanted to meet her boyfriend in person because for several months they had only spoken on Facebook. She went to the restaurant where they had arranged to meet, and after a few minutes of waiting, her boyfriend finally arrived. "You're so beautiful, I could eat you up right now, Frida. You have everything a man could dream of. I want to make you the mother of my children." Frida was over the moon. While he was flattering her, Frida began to worry that someone might see and recognize her because her father was very well known in the city. Meanwhile at school, Mr. James, the head teacher, introduced a new student to the class named Femi. Femi had come from another city and seemed very calm and unique. She was different from all the other girls. After classes that day, when the bus came back to drop the girls off at home, Frida quietly slipped inside without anyone noticing. She was very happy and told her friend Linda about her romantic date. Ijeoma, Monifa's friend who was sitting behind them, listened to their entire conversation. She heard that Frida was going to skip class again on Tuesday to go see her boyfriend. Once home that evening, Monifa had dinner at the table with her family. Her father is a loving man, while her mother is a very strict woman. Both loved their daughter Monifa deeply, as well as her younger brother. The next day, there were extracurricular activity classes, and the girls were supposed to play basketball. Monifa and Frida unfortunately ended up on the same team, but Frida refused to pass her the ball. "I don't want to play with her." When the teacher asked her to let go of the ball, she hit Monifa in the face with it. The teacher scolded her severely, but she kept mocking her and laughing. Despite her behavior, the teacher didn't dare to exclude her and let her continue playing with no punishment. At the end of the match, when the girls went to the locker room, Frida deliberately bumped into Monifa and started screaming and accusing her of touching her butt. Femi, the new student who was not far away and had witnessed the scene, knew that Monifa had done nothing but preferred not to intervene because she didn't want any trouble. All the girls in the class started screaming at Monifa and calling her a lesbian and a perverted girl. After the incident, Monifa was determined to take revenge, and the opportunity came when her friend Ijeoma whispered in her ear that Frida was planning to skip class again on Tuesday to go see her boyfriend. Monifa immediately went to inform the school principal. Frida was summoned by the principal and was reprimanded for missing school. If another girl had done the same thing, she would have been immediately expelled. But since it was Frida, the principal let her off with just a verbal warning. Even Mr. James, the head teacher, was surprised that she hadn't received any punishment. He asked the principal why she hadn't punished her, and she replied that she didn't want any problems with her father. The mean girls knew someone must have reported Frida to the principal, so they decided to threaten the school janitor to make him reveal who it was, or risk losing his job. Frida and her two mean friends, Linda and Fatima, were ready to teach a harsh lesson to the person who had reported Frida. Under Frida's threats, the janitor revealed that it was Monifa who had reported her. He didn't want to lose his job. Furious at her audacity, the three girls summoned Monifa to the back of the school in the rain and beat her mercilessly. She screamed and cried for help, but no one could hear her because of the rain. After beating her thoroughly, Frida slammed her head against the ground and she passed out. The three girls then ran away before anyone could catch them. A few minutes later, Femi, the new student, found Monifa unconscious and informed the school authorities. She was taken to the hospital. The police officer then interrogated the girls. They all lied and denied everything, and even mocked Monifa as they walked away. Meanwhile, Femi was in tears because she had seen the girls beating Monifa, but she had been too afraid to help her. Seeing them make fun of the situation, Femi confronted Linda, one of the mean girls. But Linda threatened to use Frida's father's influence to get her expelled from school if she ever dared to tell anyone she had seen them. When the police officer asked Femi if she knew who the culprits were, she said she didn't know to avoid trouble with the mean girls. A few days later, when Monifa recovered, a large assembly was organized at the school to find the girls responsible for the violence she had suffered. The principal asked Monifa to tell the truth, but she was so scared that she struggled to form a sentence. She stated that her memory was blurry, and she didn't really remember who it was. The school principal was relieved that Frida didn't get into trouble. Before ending the assembly, she asked all the girls if anyone had something to add. Frida stepped forward and took the opportunity to announce in front of everyone that Monifa had touched her buttocks the other day in the locker room after the basketball game. All the girls supported her statement, and no one believed Monifa when she defended herself. Femi felt bad for her, but she didn't have the courage to speak up. The school principal believed that Monifa was a pervert and suspended her from school for 2 weeks for inappropriately touching Frida. Even Monifa's own mother believed Frida's lies and thought her daughter really was a pervert. Monifa was desperate. Her sadness quickly turned into frustration and anger. Things got even harder for her when her only friend Ijeoma stopped replying to her messages. 2 weeks later, Frida and her 2 accomplices returned to school with great pride. They were not at all afraid that Monifa would reveal the truth, because even if she did, no one would believe her. In the school locker room, the students were informed that there was a recruitment for the national football team, where only 2 girls could be selected. Fatima, one of the mean girls, wanted to be selected, but Linda and Frida completely ignored her, saying no one could compete with them. This angered Fatima, and eventually caused a breakdown in her relationship with the other two mean girls who too often tended to exclude her from the group. Later in the week, when Monifa returned to school, she went straight to see Ijeoma in the locker room. She reproached her for not supporting her during her suspension, even though she was supposed to be her friend. Ijeoma replied that she didn't know anything about the story and that she believed Frida was right. Monifa couldn't believe her ears at what her friend was saying. So she believed the mean girls more than her. She was disappointed. When she finally found the courage to enter the classroom, the girls started mocking her and calling her a perverted and spoiled girl. Determined to get revenge on Frida, she rushed into the restroom and triggered the fire alarm. All the girls started running out of the classroom. When no one was left in the classroom, Monifa opened Frida's bag and stole her phone. She searched through the phone and found an audio recording where the mean girls were insulting Mr. James, the homeroom teacher. She then ran to the school's broadcasting room and played the recording over the school speaker. The entire school heard the audio and the voices of the mean girls speaking badly about their homeroom teacher, Mr. James. After the incident, Mr. James summoned the girls to his office. The three of them still tried to play the victims and attempted to lie, but Mr. James didn't listen to them. He punished them by sending them to clean the school latrines for the whole day and banning them from participating in all sports activities. This meant that none of the three could be selected to join the national football team anymore. Against their will, they wore the janitor uniform and cleaned the school latrines, while the other girls at school mocked them. It was the worst humiliation they had ever experienced in their lives. Monifa went to sit in the garden, proud that her revenge plan had worked perfectly. A few minutes later, she was approached by Femi, who claimed to know who was behind the prank. Monifa froze and instantly denied being involved, but that didn't convince Femi, who knew it was her. "I know it's you, Monifa. I know you did it, but don't worry, I won't tell anyone. But I advise you to be very careful." The two started talking, and Femi revealed to Monifa that she had been expelled from her previous school for hacking the school database and stealing exam papers. She therefore warned Monifa to be careful not to get expelled. Later in the day, the girls were summoned to the auditorium to attend an anti-bullying program. When the presenter asked for a volunteer to act as a bullying victim, Mr. James encouraged Frida to come forward. The host then asked for someone else to play the role of the bully. While most of the girls were scared, afraid of intimidating Frida, even though it was just a role play, Femi raised her hand and surprised everyone. She played the role perfectly and took the opportunity to properly insult Frida. Frida tried to intimidate her, but couldn't do anything in front of the teachers. At the end of the act, all the girls applauded Femi, and everyone laughed at Frida, calling her useless and smelly. She was embarrassed and especially furious with Femi, who had insulted her during the act. After the program, Frida went to the principal and asked her to allow her and her friends to participate in the tryouts for the football team. The principal immediately granted her permission without even asking Mr. James for his opinion. During recess, Femi told Monifa that she was supposed to graduate last year, but she had been expelled from school, which had caused a lot of trouble for her mother. So she didn't want to be involved in another scandal. That's why she hadn't told everyone that she had seen Frida and her friends beating her the other day. Monifa understood her confession and forgave her. The next day, during the tryouts for the football team selection, the mean girls also participated, except for Fatima, who didn't want to compete against her friends Linda and Frida. In the end, Monifa found herself face to face with Frida. She kicked the ball, but it hit Frida in the head. Furious, she tried to fight her, but the coordinator stopped her. After the training, Linda revealed to her mean friends that she had learned that Femi had seen them while they were beating up Monifa. "I didn't tell you anything because I thought Femi was too calm to report us." Frida and Fatima were shocked. The three began to suspect Femi of being behind the spread of their voice note throughout the school. After class, at sunset, Frida went to corner Femi's little sister and beat her up severely while Fatima and Linda were under a nearby tree watching the surroundings. When Femi came to defend her little sister, Frida threatened her to never interfere in her life again if she didn't want trouble and didn't want to risk being expelled from school. Femi was fed up with the mean girls. She couldn't accept that her little sister was beaten for no reason, so she decided to help Monifa in her revenge plan. That night, she went to Monifa's house and offered to help her so they could take revenge on the mean girls together. Although skeptical at first, Monifa eventually trusted her and explained the plan she had to get revenge on the mean girls. Together, they decided to target Fatima, as she was the most vulnerable among the three mean girls. The next day, upon arriving at school, Monifa entered the cafeteria and saw her friend Ijeoma with the group of mean girls. They made her compete with another girl to see who could eat the most. The girls were mocking them, but Ijeoma naively thought they were mocking the other girl she was competing with. After the contest, Monifa went to Ijeoma and told her that the mean girls were mocking her, but she didn't want to believe it. "In fact, I'm tired of you, Monifa. You're jealous that I'm having fun. You're such a killjoy." She left Monifa and went back to join the mean girls. Later that evening, the school organized a charity festival where boys from other schools were also invited. As soon as classes ended, all the girls rushed to the locker rooms to get ready. Many of them were doing their hair and makeup, while Monifa was thinking about executing her revenge plan. Meanwhile, Frida and Linda were very happy because their boyfriends were going to attend the festival. Frida took a picture of herself in a bra to send to her boyfriend. Fatima, who was the more serious among the mean girls, was shocked. She warned Linda that her boyfriend might send her photo to someone else, but Frida and Linda started mocking her, calling her an outdated village Muslim girl. Fatima was embarrassed and felt that her two friends didn't fully consider her part of their group because they often tended to sideline her. To prove to them that she wasn't a village girl and that she was also trendy, she told them she had also been talking to a man on Facebook for a week, but he had no photo on his profile. Frida and Linda found it strange, but Fatima already seemed in love with this unknown guy. A few minutes later, Ijeoma, who used to be Monifa's friend, came out of the locker room, very beautiful and well prepared, but there was a small stain on her shirt. The mean girls who were now her new friends were very nice to her. Fatima pointed out that she had a stain on her shirt. She went into the shower and applied lipstick to cover the stain. She then took selfies. A few minutes later, the mean girls posted the photo on social media and ridiculed her. Everyone laughed at her and she ran away crying. She sat in a classroom and started crying, realizing that Monifa had been right the other day when she told her the mean girls were mocking her. Monifa approached her. She apologized for being rude the last time. Monifa forgave her, and the two reconciled. Monifa then shared with Ijeoma the plan she was preparing with Femi to get revenge on the mean girls. But when Femi caught Monifa sharing their plan with Ijeoma, she got angry because if the news reached the school authorities, she would be immediately expelled and no other school would accept her. She was convinced that Ijeoma was not trustworthy. This caused a dispute between Monifa and Femi. Femi got angry and withdrew her support and involvement in their revenge plan. Monifa didn't know what to do anymore, because the rest of the plan depended entirely on Femi and her computer skills. A few hours later, the festival began, and many people gathered in the school courtyard. Monifa went to beg Femi to come back and help her, because without her, the plan couldn't work. The festival was the opportunity for her to put her plan into action. She eventually agreed to forgive her and help them again. She was still not comfortable with Ijeoma because she didn't trust her, but she was willing to give her a chance. The two explained to Ijeoma that Fatima had been talking for weeks with an unknown man on Facebook, and that this man was none other than a fake account created by Monifa. Ijeoma was shocked. We intended to use this non-existent man to get Fatima into trouble. Since Frida and Linda were currently preoccupied with their boyfriends, Fatima would be alone for most of the party, and that was the best moment to strike cleanly and teach her a good lesson. Meanwhile, the festival continued. All the students were having fun and dancing in the school courtyard. Frida, Linda and their boyfriends went to hide in a classroom to make out, away from the crowd. Fatima, on the other hand, started to feel lonely and bored because her virtual boyfriend hadn't come to the festival. When Frida, Linda and their boyfriends got hungry, Frida asked Fatima to bring them drinks and food since she was free. Meanwhile, Femi went to inform Mr. James that Frida and Linda had hidden away from the festival and were kissing boys. Immediately, Mr. James and the principal went to where they were. They all ran away with their boyfriends. When Fatima came back with the food for her friends, she realized they were no longer there. She tried calling them, but they didn't answer. Frustrated, she violently threw the tray on the ground before going to look for them. She found them in the cafeteria, but the girls didn't give a damn about her and didn't even apologize. They were focused on their boyfriends. Ijeoma, meanwhile, sneaked into the cafeteria and took a picture of Frida and Linda kissing their boyfriends. Fatima was now alone and had only an imaginary boyfriend to talk to on Facebook. Taking advantage of her vulnerability, Monifa sent her a random man's photo. The photo contained a virus created by Femi that would allow them to access Fatima's phone. She then asked her for a sexy photo of her chest without her hijab. Thinking it was a photo from her secret boyfriend, Fatima clicked on it and fell into their trap. She then went to the bathroom and took a sexy photo of her chest without her hijab, which she sent to Monifa thinking she was sending it to her virtual boyfriend. With the photo and access to her phone, the revenge group could finally execute the final step of the plan. Monifa, Femi and Ijeoma started celebrating, and 2 minutes later, they posted the photo on Fatima's Facebook page. All the students who came to the school party started looking at her and whispering things to each other. When she opened her phone, she was in shock. Several people had already seen and commented on the post, insulting and reprimanding her because she wasn't wearing her hijab in the photo and because the photo was vulgar. She was lost and covered in shame in front of everyone. The next day, her mother spoke to the principal and permanently withdrew her daughter from the school. Fatima came from a very religious household, and wearing the hijab was mandatory. Her mother called her a whore that no one would want to marry. The next day, Mr. James went into the locker room and informed the girls that Fatima had been withdrawn from school. Frida and Linda didn't like the news and were furious with the boyfriend who had trapped their friend. They sent him a message on Facebook telling him they would make him pay for what he had done. Monifa saw the message and started laughing. Ijeoma, on the other hand, started to regret what they had done. She told herself that even if the mean girls deserved to be punished, they had completely ruined Fatima's life. As for Monifa, she felt no remorse at all and was ready to go after the second target. Femi, on the other hand, had mixed feelings. She knew what they had done was excessive, but she also thought Fatima deserved it. Later in the day, Femi received a notification that someone had subscribed to her account on Instagram. It was Emeka, Linda's boyfriend. When Linda heard about it, she slammed Femi against the wall, severely threatening her not to go near her boyfriend. She then threw Femi's phone on the ground and smashed it before walking away. Femi began to cry. The next day, the homeroom teacher, Mr. James, announced the results of the selection for the national football team that they had all been eagerly awaiting. To everyone's surprise, he announced Monifa's name instead of Frida's. According to the teacher, an individual must have a good attitude in addition to being a good athlete in order to be selected. But since Frida did not show good sportsmanship and tried to fight on the day of the selection, Monifa was selected in her place. After the announcement, when Monifa was alone in the shower room, Frida followed her, and when she moved away from her bag, she took the bag and searched it and found her journal. Fortunately for Monifa, she hadn't written anything serious in the journal like her revenge plans. Unfortunately, it was written in the journal that she had mental health issues. So, to get revenge on her for stealing her spot during the selection, Frida tore out the page of the journal where it was written that Monifa had mental problems. She photocopied the page and spread it all over the school. Everyone started calling Monifa crazy, and everyone told her to go to a psychiatric hospital. She was devastated. She ran to the school toilets and started to cry. Frida and Linda found her in the toilets and threw the pages at her while mocking her. Monifa was so ashamed that she couldn't go to class anymore. She stayed in the toilets until break time and Ijeoma came to see her. Ijeoma tried to cheer her up, but Monifa had had enough of the mean girls, especially Frida. She didn't even want revenge anymore and was ready to change schools to find peace. Femi joined Ijeoma to try to convince her not to leave the school, but in vain. Femi thought that if Monifa went to another school, it would mean that the mean girls had won. But to Monifa, they had already won. For several days, Monifa stopped talking to everyone, including her friends. She was sinking into depression. Meanwhile, Fatima also stopped answering her phone and responding to Frida and Linda's messages, who were starting to worry. So they decided to go to her house to check on her. They went to knock on her door after school, but her mother refused to let them in and ordered them to stop calling her daughter. The girls left reluctantly, while Fatima watched them from her bedroom window. Her mother called her a whore and a disgrace to the family and compared her to her sisters, who were much prettier and more serious. She was lost. Monifa's revenge and her allies had completely ruined her life, and her mother swore she would never go to school again and would go into an apprenticeship instead. Meanwhile, Monifa was about to tell her mother about her intention to change schools when she received a message from Ijeoma. "Good evening, Monifa. I heard Frida and Linda planning another outing with their boyfriends on the day of the school trip. I think we have the opportunity to catch them red-handed and get our revenge." Ijeoma also sent Monifa the photo she had taken of Frida, Linda and their boyfriends on the night of the festival. As soon as she read the message, she immediately got up and went to meet Ijeoma and Femi. Together, they planned how they would strike against Frida and Linda. A few days later, it was the day of the annual school trip. Frida was getting ready in her room when her older brother Chidi asked her to come out. Chidi was an angry and strict man who controlled all the decisions in his sister's life. They were strictly opposed to Frida having an intimate relationship with a man before turning 18. He was very strict with her, and that morning he told her to behave well during the trip. Meanwhile, her best friend Linda, who came from a modest family, also had her own problems. Her father was an alcoholic who beat her whenever he wanted, and, although he had already given her permission to go the day before, he ordered her to stay home just as she was about to leave for the trip. Her mother came to her rescue and begged him to let her go before he changed his mind again. Chidi dropped his sister Frida off at school for the trip, but before she got out of the car, she noticed a gun in the car. She asked him what he was doing with a gun in his car, but Chidi immediately dismissed her. All the girls gathered for the trip, led by their homeroom teacher, Mr. James. When the bus arrived, all the girls got on, and the bus dropped them off at the hotel planned for the school outing. Once the school bus arrived at the hotel, Mr. James, assisted by Monifa, assigned a room to be shared by 3 people. The girls expected Femi and her 2 friends, Ijeoma and Monifa, to be in the same room. But to their great surprise, Femi ended up in the same room with the mean girls. Monifa revealed that she had deliberately assigned Femi to the mean girls' room because she wanted her to keep an eye on them. Femi, for her part, was not happy with this decision because she had not been informed beforehand. Monifa and Femi then had a heated argument. Monifa was disappointed because she thought the girls were ready to do anything for their project. But Femi showed her otherwise. Later, Femi entered the room and met the evil duo, Frida and Linda, with whom she would have to share the same room. After settling in, all the girls hung out by the pool and had a lot of fun. Frida decided to go to the spa to be alone and discovered that Femi was there too. Suddenly, an old pervert approached Femi and began touching her inappropriately. She tried to push him away, but he wouldn't back off. Frida saw her struggling and immediately rushed to her aid. She immediately called Mr. James to handle the situation. Femi began to realize that Frida wasn't as mean as she thought. A few hours later at nightfall, Frida and Linda returned to their room. Linda started to argue and insult Femi as usual and threatened to hit her, but Frida stopped her and prevented her from hitting her. Frida was so kind to Femi that the latter began to like her and questioned the revenge plan she had made with Monifa and Ijeoma. The next day, during breakfast, Femi told Monifa and Ijeoma that she no longer wanted to take revenge on the mean girls. Monifa was angry and accused her of being brainwashed by the mean girls. Femi then explained that she was not a child and she knew what the mean girls had done to her was wrong. But she had thought about it and understood that revenge would bring them nothing. Because of us, Fatima's parents forbade her from going to school. What did we gain from that? Let me talk to Frida and Linda to make peace between all of us, she added. Monifa and Ijeoma were furious. You betrayed us, Femi. I am disappointed by your behavior. You are no longer in our group from now on. At nightfall, Frida and Linda began getting ready to go to a nightclub. They put on their sexiest outfits and applied lipstick. Frida told Femi she could come with them if she wanted. At first she was skeptical, but she eventually agreed to go with them because she no longer had any friends to spend time with. Linda didn't want to go with Femi, but Frida discreetly whispered in her ear that if Femi went to the club with them, she wouldn't be able to report them to Mr. James. A few minutes later, Mr. James conducted the nightly check to make sure everyone was in their room. Monifa and Ijeoma were present. Frida, Linda and Femi had already left the hotel and were already at the club in town. But before leaving the hotel, they had placed pillows under their bedsheets to fool Mr. James. Frida and Linda danced with the boys, while Femi sat alone pressing on her phone. Meanwhile, Monifa and Ijeoma were together in the hotel courtyard. Monifa still planned to go through with her revenge plan even without Femi. Ijeoma wanted her to talk to Femi first, but she didn't care, and her only goal was to get revenge on the mean girls. We will never have another chance to get revenge after tonight, Ijeoma. Might as well do it now. She got up and went to inform Mr. James about the girl's disappearance, unaware that Femi was also with them. Ijeoma went to check Femi's room and realized she wasn't there. She realized that she had probably joined the mean girls, but it was already too late to stop Mr. James, who was very furious. Meanwhile, at the club, Emeka, Linda's boyfriend, tried to get closer to Femi while Linda went outside to get some food. He started touching her chest. Femi pushed him away and stepped back, but he kept approaching her. When Linda came back, she caught them together in a very inappropriate position. Caught in his own trap, Emeka started playing the victim. Furious, Linda thought that it was Femi who had come on to her boyfriend. I knew it. I never trusted you. Now you're trying to steal my boyfriend. Get out immediately before I get angry. Femi felt humiliated and sad for something that wasn't even her fault. She went to hide in the bathroom to get away from the group. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Monifa and Ijeoma had already tried calling Femi several times without success. They wanted to warn her. Mr. James, on his part, went looking for the girls. When he arrived at the club, he asked the bouncer to let him in, but the bouncer refused. They were still arguing when Femi noticed that Ijeoma had already sent her many messages. She discovered that Mr. James was looking for them. She immediately rushed outside to alert the girls, but ran straight into Mr. James. Emeka immediately ran away and left his girlfriend Linda, who got caught along with Frida. When Mr. James questioned Linda, she tried to cover for her friend Frida by pretending she had come to the club alone. Back at the hotel, Frida and Femi lied, saying they had been looking for Linda, and that was why they weren't in their room. In the end, only Linda got into trouble and took the blame. After the school trip, on the first day back at school, Linda showed up with a big bruise on her eye. Her father had hit her because of her behavior during the school trip. Fortunately for her, the principal let her off with just a warning. Ijeoma and Femi felt sorry for Linda, who had been beaten by her father. But Monifa was very happy because she had managed to get her way once again, even if only partially. The only person she still hadn't managed to get into trouble was Frida, who always got away with everything, even though she was the worst of the mean girls. Monifa wanted to do everything to get back at her. She hadn't spoken to Ijeoma or Femi since they returned from the trip, and no one could stop her from doing what she was about to do. When the break bell rang, Frida put makeup on Linda to cover the bruise on her eye. Frida didn't get in trouble for what she had done, but Linda didn't blame her for it. She knew that if Chidi, Frida's big brother, had found out that his sister had gone partying at a club with boys, he would have killed her. The following Tuesday, Frida was once again planning to skip class to go to her boyfriend's place. She had already done it several times and was convinced everything would be fine. However, after everything that had happened to their group in the past few days, Linda was afraid for her because she had started to fear Monifa. She warned her in the bathroom and told her to be very careful. Unfortunately, or fortunately, while they were talking, Monifa was behind the bathroom wall listening to their conversation. During recess, Femi thanked Linda for covering for her at the club. Linda also apologized for lashing out at her when it was actually her boyfriend Emeka who had approached her, and not the other way around. The two of them understood each other again. That evening after school, Monifa searched online for Frida's boyfriend's contact details to use them against her. Meanwhile, at Frida's house, her big brother Chidi came to surprise her in her room while she was on the phone with her boyfriend. She quickly ended the call and tried to hide the phone, which made her brother even more suspicious. He checked her phone, but luckily for her, she had saved her boyfriend's name under Linda's name. Frida was fed up with her brother constantly snooping into her private life. She complained to her father that she had no privacy, and that her big brother was always on her back and constantly going through her personal life. Unfortunately, her father didn't listen to her, and even encouraged Chidi to keep a closer eye on her, because he didn't have enough time to do it himself. The next morning at school, Frida once again slipped away from the school bus and went for a drive with her boyfriend. Meanwhile, a major awards ceremony was scheduled at the school. A ceremony during which the principal was nominated to receive an award for her work throughout the school year. When Mr. James entered the classroom, he immediately noticed Frida's absence and instantly suspected that she had run off again. The principal didn't want to create a scene before receiving her Excellence Award, so she didn't even try to find out where Frida was. Meanwhile, Frida accompanied her boyfriend to his house. They had gone there to spend quality time together without having to worry about being seen by anyone. But before going inside, Frida told him clearly that they were just going to spend time together and wouldn't do anything else. She then took off her school uniform and hung it to dry in the yard. Back at school, Mr. James was upset that the principal once again treated Frida like a pawn and let her get away without punishment. To teach the principal a lesson, he called Frida's father to inform him of his daughter's absence. He also told him that it wasn't the first time she had run away from school. Frida's father was busy and called his son Chidi, who immediately got in his car, looking furious, and drove to the school to speak with the principal. Meanwhile, Linda was scrolling through the photos on her phone when she came across a picture of Frida and her boyfriend on the night of the school party. Zooming in on the photo, she saw Ijeoma in the background. She began to suspect that Ijeoma was involved in the prank, where a sexy photo of Fatima without her hijab had been posted on Facebook. She intercepted Ijeoma and Femi on their way to the award ceremony and asked them why they had done all of that. Femi quickly apologized, which confirmed Linda's suspicions. The two also warned Linda that Monifa was currently planning something else to get Frida into trouble. Linda was scared because she knew how violent and mean Chidi, Frida's brother, could be. Meanwhile, Frida was having the best time of her life with her boyfriend, and for the first time, they weren't paranoid about being seen. They kissed, made love promises, and enjoyed their best time together. Back at school, Femi apologized to Linda for all the harm she had caused her in the past. Linda was ready to let go of the past if it meant they could save Frida together, because she was at great risk if her big brother caught her. The three of them ran to stop Monifa, but unfortunately, Frida's big brother had already arrived at the school. He met with Mr. James and asked him to explain everything. Mr. James took the opportunity to explain that the principal didn't care enough about the students' safety and that she had encouraged Frida's bad behavior, as this wasn't her first time running away. When Chidi learned that his sister had a boyfriend, he turned red with anger. The idea that his little sister was with that man was enough to send him into a rage, because Frida wasn't even 18 yet. Monifa, meanwhile, was in the school bathroom, typing the address of Frida's boyfriend's house on her phone. She was about to send it to Chidi, Frida's brother, to make sure Frida got caught. But just as she was about to hit send, Linda, Ijeoma and Femi entered and begged her to reconsider and forgive Frida. Linda also apologized while crying and promised never to bother anyone again if Monifa dropped the whole thing. But Monifa had made her decision. She hadn't forgotten everything the mean girls had made her go through. She didn't listen to any of them and sent Frida's location to Chidi. The damage was done and no one could stop Chidi anymore. As soon as he got the message, he headed straight there. Frida was still with her boyfriend, and they were deeply in love. "You are the most beautiful woman I've ever known, Frida. You drive me crazy. I want to spend the rest of my life in your arms." Everything was perfect, or at least that's what Frida thought, until suddenly someone knocked at the door. Frida immediately recognized her brother's voice and jumped. She knew it was over for her. Outside, Chidi found Frida's school uniform drying in the yard. He immediately concluded that his little sister had slept with her boyfriend, and he turned instantly red with rage. Meanwhile, Frida's father also finally arrived at the school, and angry, he threw the principal's Excellence Award to the ground and broke it in front of some students standing and witnessing the scene. He promised to destroy her, as well as the entire school, before leaving in anger. After he left, the principal looked at Mr. James with disappointment and tearfully asked him if he was proud of what he had done. Mr. James had no regrets because it was for the safety of the girls, and it was not the first time the principal had acted this way. Monifa had a slight discreet smile, proud that her plan had finally worked perfectly. Meanwhile, Chidi was red with anger, and he broke down the door and headed toward Frida's boyfriend, who had already knelt down to beg for forgiveness. Frida was drowning in her tears. It was the end for her. Chidi paused for a moment, the anger readable on his face. Then he pulled out his weapon from his pocket, the same one Frida had seen in his car on the day of the school trip. He pointed it at Frida's boyfriend, who was crying bitterly. Frida also kept crying and begging her big brother for her boyfriend's life. In the school, Monifa walked proudly through the hallways, and no one was there to bother her like before. She saw Linda crying for her friend, but didn't even stop to say anything to her. A few months earlier, she was one of the 3 girls who had beaten Monifa until she passed out in the courtyard of that same school. As for Fatima, she ended up in a training workshop to learn sewing. Whatever the consequences of Monifa's actions, it is clear she did not regret them. Let's say no to violence and discrimination in schools. This story does not encourage violence. It was made to take us back to our memories of the good old days at school. Write in the comments the name of your favorite character and explain why you chose them. Leave me a message of encouragement if you enjoyed the story.